Shalom. All praises, blessings, glories, and honors to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, Kwadash, and double honors to my elder apostles and bishop elders of Great Millstone who taught me this truth, as well of men of like mind. Shalom wa chasad, which means peace and mercy to the elect of the nation of Israel, whom you so call Negroes, Latinos, Native American Indians, and Israelite foreigners of the seed line of our forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whom are scattered here in America, which is Babylon the Great, and abroad. To you I say Shalom, beginning with the 144,000 prophets, and Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, willing. This lesson is edifying and informative. My name is Kwanawat, and in the news from the CNN, Trump announces U.S. withdrawal from the World Health Organization. After becoming the new president of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump had signed an executive order withdrawing the United States from the World Health Organization, among many others. He also has an agenda to withdraw the U.S. from NATO, which will be a significant move towards prophecy regarding the fulfillment of Revelation, the 17th chapter, the 16th verse, whereby it states, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire." All roads are leading to this prophecy, among many major others, including the global introduction and subsequent mandation of the MOTB, which is the RFID microchip, also known as the NFC chip implant in Europe, also known as the biochip implant. The word bio means living or alive, also known as the brain chip implant, i.e. Elon Musk's Neuralink. Right? So this is just a prelude to what is to come. Now, the article reads, President Donald Trump announced Monday he is withdrawing the U.S. from the World Health Organization, in a significant move that drew criticism from public health experts on his first day back in the White House. Trump has long been critical of the United Nations Health Agency, and its administration formally began a withdrawal from the WHO in July 2020 as the C-19 pandemic continued to spread. But 4 years ago, the then President Joe Biden halted the U.S.'s exit from the body tasked with coordinating the international response to health emergencies in one of his first actions after taking over the White House. The text of Monday's executive order cites the organization's mishandling of the C-19 pandemic that arose out of Wuhan, China, and other global health crises, its failure to adopt urgently needed reforms, and its inability to demonstrate independence from the inappropriate political influence of WHO member states as reasons for the U.S. withdrawal. That's a big one. Trump told an aide, and I saw that clip as he began to sign the executive order, pointing to his 2020. And in that same clip, he made a statement saying that everybody takes advantage of the U.S. Everybody takes advantage. But now that stops. Roughly paraphrasing what he had stated in, that clip when he had made this statement. That's a big one. Decision and his belief that the U.S. was paying too much money to the organization compared to other countries. In 2020, Trump also constantly accused the organization of aiding China in allegedly covering up the origins of C-19 and allowing its spread. CNN has reached out to the WHO for comment. While lawmakers from both parties had criticized the WHO in 2020, when Trump first decided to pull out, many denounced the president's decision to withdraw during a once-in-a-century global pandemic. Then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi at the time called it an act of true senselessness. And since retired Republican Senator Lamar Alexander, then chairman of the Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee, said he disagreed with Trump's decision. Now, the point has been read. You brothers and sisters can feel free to read the rest at your leisure. And in other news, from the AP, Trump signs an executive order directing with U.S. withdrawal from the Paris Climate Agreement. Again, so not only did this man signed an executive order to withdraw the U.S. from the WHO, but he also signed an executive order to withdraw the U.S. from the Paris Climate Agreement. Briefly, it says President Donald Trump signed an executive order Monday directing the United States to again withdraw from the landmark Paris Climate Agreement. Now, what is the Paris Climate Agreement? From the Wikipedia. Well, from Google Overview, rather. It says the Paris Agreement is a legally binding international treaty adopted in 2015 to combat so-called climate change. Its main goals are to limit the global temperature increase to well below 2 degrees Celsius, and ideally to 1.5 degrees Celsius, above pre-industrial levels. The agreement also aims to strengthen the global response to climate change and build resilience to its impacts. And that is the Global Paris Agreement, or the Global Climate Agreement, also known as the Paris Agreement. So, again, it reads, President Donald Trump signed an executive order Monday directing the United States to again withdraw from the landmark Paris Climate Agreement, dealing a blow to worldwide efforts to combat global warming and once again distancing the U.S. from its closest allies. And this will be completely solidified, once this man signs an executive order withdrawing the U.S. from NATO and potentially the U.S. is not a part of the EU, but mainly NATO, right? And once he does that, that will lay the groundwork for America's allies to hate America, Babylon the Great. Trump's action, hours after he was sworn into a second term, echoed his directive in 2017 when he announced that the U.S. would abandon the Global Paris Accord. The pact is aimed at limiting long-term global warming to 2.7 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly 1.5 degrees Celsius, above pre-industrial levels, or failing that, keeping temperatures at least well below 3.6 degrees Fahrenheit, roughly 2 degrees Celsius, over pre-industrial levels. Trump also signed a letter to the United Nations indicating his intention to withdraw from the 2015 agreement, which also, which allows nations to provide targets to cut their own emissions of greenhouse gases from the burning of coal, oil, and natural gas. Those targets are supposed to become more stringent over time, with countries facing a February 2025 deadline for new individual plans. Outgoing Biden administration last month offered a plan to cut U.S. greenhouse gas emissions by more than 60% by 2035. Trump's order says the Paris Accord is among a number of international agreements that don't reflect U.S. values and steer American taxpayers' dollars to countries that do not require or merit financial assistance in the interests of the American people. So this man is basically showing the world that he is a nationalist, right? He's pro-America. But we understand that behind closed doors, behind the veil, the curtain, so to speak, everyone in that government is controlled by the small hats. In fact, the majority of them are small hats. They're Zionists. I mean, that's a fact. So now let's put this into Google. Trump plans to withdraw from NATO to see what pops up. Because he had made a statement that he does plan on exiting NATO, exiting the U.S. out of NATO. Well, nothing really significant popped up. So let's read the book of Revelation, chapter 17, verse 16, and one more scripture, and then conclude the lesson, Lord's willing. So again, this is Revelation, chapter 17, verse 16. It says, and the 10 horns, which the 10 horns represents the EU allies of America. All right, the EU nations. Right? Which thou sawest upon the beast, and the beast is the pagan Roman Empire, which came back in the form of NATO and the EU, the European Union. All right, that's really what the 10 horns represents, the European Union. Not exactly the European nations, but rather the European Union, right? What is the EU, in fact? Let's look up the EU. What is the European Union? The European Union is a unique partnership between 27 European countries known as member states or EU countries, right? You have to be specific. Together, they cover much of the European continent. The EU is home to around 447 million people, which is around 6% of the world's population. So here we have a map of the European Union with keys. You can pause the video, take a look at it, and now let's read on. So again, it says the 10 horns, which represents the European Union, the EU, which thou sawest upon the beast, which is the pagan Roman Empire, which came back in the form of NATO and the EU, with America being an extension of that empire. These shall hate the whore, which the whore is America, Babylon the Great. How do we know this? Revelation 18 chapter. All right, Revelation 13. Revelation 17. Breaks it down, and shall make her desolate. How are they going to make her desolate? By thermonuclear fire, by shooting fire upon her according to biblical prophecy, which can be referenced in the book of Jeremiah, the 50th chapter. And naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. So they're going to shoot nuclear missiles according to biblical prophecy upon this land. according to biblical prophecy. Obadiah, verse 7. All the men of thy confederacy, all the men of whose confederacy, and what is a confederacy? The men represents America's allies. The confederacy is their agreement, right? Their agreement that they exhibit, that they showed through trade, through traffic, all right? Benefiting each other's interests, especially through trade, land, sea, and air, especially sea. So all the men of thy confederacy, all the men that are in agreement with America, Babylon, the Great, have brought thee even to the border. What border? Joel, the 3rd chapter, tells us that border is the valley of Jehoshaphat, which is located in the Arabian Peninsula, so-called Middle East, because that's where the throws will be fought. It says, the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee. Why? Because they're going to show that they hate this place. They hate this whore and prevail against thee. So they're going to prevail according to biblical prophecy, because the Lord is going to cause them to prevail. They that eat thy bread through the traffic, through the trade that they have laid a wound under thee, a trap. Because in the end, they're going to show that, man, they hate this place. It was just to benefit them for a season. There is none understanding in him. And this place has actually made their people worst off. They're gonna blame everything upon America, Babylon, the Great, man, and it's gonna be made manifest in the very near future. Especially when Trump signs that executive order to withdraw the U.S. from NATO, according to his agenda, his campaign agenda. So with that, I say shalom to the elect. I pray this lesson has been edifying and informative. This has been another in the news. Shalom to the elect.